and it's being said that we should fast without water as well today. So okay, we'll discuss about on Ekadashi and then we'll continue chapter 1. So let's chant the prayers before that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Sopadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So once again welcome you all. So we'll briefly discuss about this today's Ekadashi. So it's being said that today is Pandava Ekadashi or Nirjala Ekadashi, and this is a discussion happened between Bhima, or we call it Bhima Sen, and one of Pandavas with Srila Vyasadeva. So it is found in Brahma Vaivarta Purana that the discussion happened between Vyasadeva and Bhima. So Bhima said to Vyasadeva that my brothers and my mother, Kunti Maharani and Yudhishthira Maharaj and all others, they used to do fasting. They used to do fasting on Ekadashi and they don't eat anything. And also they, especially Yudhishthira Maharaj, he used to request me as well to not take anything. But I am, I could not stay without eating anything. My, Jatar Agni is so high that I can't stay without food. So he asked to Vyasadeva that, please guide me, what shall I do? And then Vyasadeva told that, no, I'm cutting it short. So Vyasadeva told that in this month of May and June, so one Ekadashi comes, and in that Ekadashi, you should fast with even without water. So whole day, 24 hours from sunrise to next sunrise, stay without taking a drop of water as well. And in this way, you will actually get the benefit of fasting from all other 23 Ekadashi of the year. And it's being said that even if unknowingly, if you break other Ekadashis in the whole year, then by fasting this Ekadashi without water, then also we can get the benefit of others Ekadashi as well. So that's in a short narration, right? And it's said very nicely that the Falashruti, that one who reads or hears the glorious of this Ekadashi with devotion goes back to the abode of Vaikuntha. The result one attains by observing the vow of Amavasya conjoined with the Pratipada and offering oblations to the forefathers during the solar eclipse is attained simply by hearing the glories of this Ekadashi. So that's how this Pandava Ekadashi is also very glorious too. And from that day, Vishnu Sen actually he started observing Nirjala Ekadashi. So this is also called as Pandava Ekadashi or Bhima Sen Ekadashi too. Right. So that's the importance of this Ekadashi. Okay, so let's go to our discussion of Bhagavad Gita. And we have discussed, let me say it quickly and then we can try to cover all those things very quickly. So in last or first session of Bhagavad Gita, we discussed a bit very, very briefly about Srila Prabhupada, his appearance day and how he brought up and how he, met with his spiritual masters, and then how he carried out all this mission of Krishna consciousness across the whole world. And his books, basically importantly, is more than 76 languages as of now. And then we discussed about importance of Bhagavad Gita, as Prabhupada mentions in introduction. That's very lengthy, but very, very important introduction Prabhupada gives it. But how to understand Bhagavad Gita and what the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is also called as Gita Upanishad. This is the topmost Upanishad from all 108 Upanishads. And we discussed a bit elaborately on those things. And the spirit of Bhagavad Gita is basically to, it's been confirmed by Bhagavad Gita is actually broadly accepted by all the sampradayas as well, like Sankaracharya, Ramanacharya, Madhvacharya, Nibaka Swami, and everyone. And then it's advertised to everyone, and it's especially for the devotees. And then we discussed about the 5 important subject matter of the Bhagavad Gita. That is, the Bhagavad Gita explains us what is Ishvara, or who is the Supreme Lord, and what is Jiva, who we are, or the living entity, and the Prakriti, the nature, and the Kala, what's time, and Karma, activity. These are the 5 topics majorly described across Bhagavad Gita. And then we discussed about this Vedic literature actually is meant for human being, not for animals. And our real goal is to attain the spiritual world, go back to the spiritual world and engage in our different kind of services to Lord Hari. That is called as Sanatana Sky, or the spiritual abode. And then we discussed very briefly about the Bhagavad Gita, like few facts spoken by Lord Krishna himself at Kurukshetra. It got 18 chapters, 700 slokas, and Lord Krishna spoke 574 slokas, Arjuna 84, Sanjay 41, and Dhritarashtra first or 1 sloka. And the battle went for 18 days, and approximately 1 billion and 660 millions warriors, they laid down their lives over there. And then we discussed about this diversity, like Vyasadeva speaking to Lord Ganesha, and Vaishampani Rishi speaking to Janamejaya, the Mahabharata. And in the Mahabharata, there's a narration between Sanjay and Dhritarashtra. That comes the Bhagavad Gita part, and spoken by Lord Krishna to Arjuna in the middle of war. So we'll start from today from here. So 5 topics, how we can relate it, basically, that the living entity or Atma, what is that? That is basically our identity. So Bhagavad Gita explains about what our identity is. That's basically we can relate from our today's social media things, like, yes, it's Facebook, our identity, right? And then it explains about the nature or Prakriti, or we can say as weather. And then karma, that's how do we do activities and how the activity actually comes back to us, and that is basically our to-do list. And Kala, or this called as cosmic time, and then how it's enlightening everything and every second. We also discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam that 4 kind of analysis happens, and this is how time acts on everything. That's clock. And then Ishvara, or God, or that's basically connect, or this Bhagavad Gita will let us know that how can the first one, Atma or living entity, can connect with Ishvara, right? And this connection we'll sing it in this Bhagavad Gita. So these are the 5 major topics of Bhagavad Gita, that Jiva, Ishvara, Prakriti, Karma, and Kala. So to begin with Bhagavad Gita, let's see about a background about this whole dynasty and happens, like, so again there's a 2 more lineage, but I'm just going from King Shantanu. So King Shantanu has 2 wives. One is Mother Ganga Devi, or Satyavati. So from Ganga he got a son called Vishma Deva. Vishma, actually he took a vow, so he becomes a Vishma. We'll discuss again later on sometimes about why and what the vow is. And then from second wife Satyavati, this basically before marriage he had from Parashar Muni. So Satyavati, before marriage she had a son Vyasadeva from Parashar Muni, and who is now the author of all Vedic literatures we know as. And Satyavati has 2 children, that is one is Chitrasen and one is Vichitravirya. So Chitrasen, he was killed in the battle before marriage, and Vichitravirya, he died actually childless. However, he had three wives, the Ambika and Ambalika and a maid servant. So somehow or other, they have been requested by Vyasadev to increase the population for begot children from Ambika and Ambalika and the maid servant. And by Vyasadev through Niyog, and their son came called Dhritarashtra, and he was blind. And going ahead, he got married to Gandhari, and later he gave 100 son and one daughter. So that's a Dhritarashtra, or we call as Kauravas. And then from second wife, Vyasadev, from second wife, is Ambalika. Is comes Pandu. Pandu has got a curse actually, when that's he will curse from a deer. Basically, there are two brahmanas in the form of deer. They were enjoying their union in forest, and then Pandu killed. So this deer, they turn into Brahman, and they curse that you will die when you embrace your wife in that Indian way. So that's how Pandu could not have any children from Kunti and Madri. However, Kunti Maharani has a blessings that she could actually invite any of the devatas to get son, and that's how, just to check this boon, Kunti Maharani actually she tried to test it, and from there the Karna got born, and it was sun god's son, become Karna. And then she had another three sons from Yudhishthir and Bhima and Arjuna, and from second wife Madri, she got Nakul and Sahadeva as their sons. So these five sons are called as Pandava. And then from third maid servant, actually Vyasadeva has called Vidura. Basically, Vidura became a brother of Dhritarashtra and Pandu, but as Pandu died early, so Vidura became the counselor. He used to give the counseling to Dhritarashtra to run his kingdom. Right. So that's basically very, very briefly about the dynasty. Okay. All right. So let's go into chapter 1 then now. So chapter 1, it says that observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So chapter 1, sometimes, actual, if you see, Krishna started speaking from chapter number 2. So the first chapter is basically a setting of background, and it is very, very important, chapter 1, because chapter 1 provides what the problem statement was, so that the solution can be found out, and Krishna gave the solution to Arjuna. And Sutapa Prabhu makes this chapter acronym as doubt. So if you remember, if you can remember doubt, so you can remember the whole chapter as well. So DOUBT, so D stands for Dhritarashtra, and O is omnious result. We will see how this victory of Pandavas becomes very clear. And DOU, U is certainty. And then Arjuna, he became a bit bewildered, and he don't want to fight, so he was uncertain. And then B is a bewilderment of Arjuna, and T the turning point. That's another way to memorize this whole chapter, what happened in chapter 1. However, now we'll try to cover up as many slokas we could do, and I won't be reading all the slokas, but we'll try to cover up as many as possible. So any question or any thought, any doubt as of now, before we move on to chapter 1 on first sloka? Or is all okay? Okay, so let me go into this chapter. So this chapter, it has actually 5 sections in if you divide these sections. So the 5 sections comes as, first is Dhritarashtra enquiries from Sanjaya that what's happening in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. That's the sloka 1. And then after that, Duryodhana, he became diplomatic. He was fearful anyway, and he became diplomatic, and he describes the armies on the both sides of Pandavas as well as his own sides, right? And then in third section, it's the basically blowing of conch shell. So from Bhishma, he starts blowing the council, and then all the others, great warrior, this other blowing the council, and so many musical instrument and being blown over there, right? And the fourth is Arjuna. He observes the army, so who are the one who had came to fight in this battlefield. So he wanted to see everyone actually before just war. And this point actually, basically, Krishna, he made Arjuna in an illusion because he wanted to speak Bhagavad Gita for all of us. So he made Arjuna as his intermediate, or his instrument for by which we all can get this Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna says in fourth chapter that this parampara has actually gone away. So I want to reestablish, and I'm reestablishing the dharma through you. And the fifth section of this chapter is Arjuna gives 4 reasons not to fight this war, and he wanted to go away from this battlefield. And hence Krishna, these are the problems that basically Arjuna was in the battlefield. He was a very, very brave warrior as well. He was not coward. Still, he wanted to go away from the battlefield. And then Krishna answers him that you should not go away from this. And Arjuna gives very, 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 you can say as very, important and authentic point that yes, I should not fight this battlefield. But still, Krishna assures him that what you are doing actually is correct. Okay, so these are the 5 major sections of chapter number 1. So let's enter to the first verse. He says, Dhritarashtra uvacha dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yujutsav mamakaha pandavaschaiva kim akurvata sanjaya. So this verse says that Dhritarashtra uvacha, the first verse being spoken by Dhritarashtra, and the only one verse in Bhagavad Gita spoken by Dhritarashtra. So Dhritarashtra says that Dharma Kshetra, very, very important, it's a Dharma Kshetra. So this place is called a Dharma Kshetra because it's being said in other Upanishads that Kurukshetra was actually very, very pious place, and that's how it's called a Dharma Kshetra. And Kurukshetra is called a Dharma Kshetra, and important thing is that Dhritarashtra knew very well that all these Pandavas and Kauravas, they are in the Kurukshetra to fight the war, isn't it? But still, why he is asking that Mamaka Pandavas Chaiva Kim Akurvata Sanjaya? He says, oh Sanjaya, Mamaka, he from the very first word or verse of the Bhagavad Gita, Dhritarashtra discriminating between his sons and sons of Pandu. He says, Mamaka Pandavas Chaiva. He definitely discriminated both, that my sons Kauravas and Pandavas, they are different. But if you see on the part of Pandavas, even 3 sons were from mother Kunti and 2 from Madari, but they both 3 to 5 sons, they always call as Pandavas. They never discriminate between each other. And even once it happens that in their Vanavas, once Yudhishthira Maharaj was actually caught in a pond, and everyone was dying there because of actually the dharma. He wanted to test Yudhishthira Maharaj over there, and all became died. And then Yudhishthira Maharaj being asked that who, if you were given a chance to make one alive from these 4, who do you say? He says, I would like to go to either Nakul or Sahadev, because from Kunti Maharanis, I am the one who is actually alive. So I want one son from there. Neither he chose Bhima or Arjuna. He said, okay, let my both mothers have one son. However, the Dharmaraj, he actually make alive to all these sons. That's another part of pastime. Understanding that Dhritarashtra, though he was a king and he's supposed to carry everyone as a one, but he discriminated from his son and the Pandavas. So it's been described by Acharyas that Dhritarashtra was blind by his eyes, by his senses of eyes, but still he was also blind from his knowledge, from his buddhi. And Prabhupada very nicely makes this very first purport very lengthy, and very nicely he says that Bhagavad Gita is widely read theistic science summarized in the Gita Mahatmya or glorification of the Gita. There it is said that one should read Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly with the help of a person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna and try to understand it without personally motivated interpretation. So Prabhupada makes very clear that the point should not be misinterpreted, or it should not be changed by our own thoughts. It should be taken as it is. That's why the Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita is also called as Bhagavad Gita as it is. uh, yeah, it's Yatharupa. As Krishna wanted to speak to Arjuna, the same mode is being presented by Srila Prabhupada for us. And that is the reason, if you see, that so many devotees in the Western world who has been engaged in so many you know impious activities, just by reading this Bhagavad Gita, they have turned their hearts, because this Bhagavad Gita has a potential to clean our hearts, right? And Prabhupada mentions very nicely that if someone is fortunate enough to understand the Bhagavad Gita in that line of disciplic succession without motivated interpretation, then he surpasses all studies of Vedic wisdom and all scriptures of the world. So, Prabhupada again says that in disciplic succession, if we try to understand Bhagavad Gita, then we can actually surpass all Vedic studies, right? And the last point Prabhupada makes, that one will find in the Bhagavad Gita all that is contained in the other scripture. So you may ask, right? If someone studies Bhagavad Gita, then how can he surpass all the studies of Vedic wisdom? Then Prabhupada answered this question saying that one will find in the Bhagavad Gita all that is contained in other scriptures, but the reader will also find things which are not to be found elsewhere. So Bhagavad Gita gives everything what's present in other scriptures, and also this provides things which are not present in the scriptures. It's like Parshit Maharaj, he was discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadev Goswami, and Parshit Maharaj says, "Oh Sukadev Goswami, I ask you what the question I asked you, please let me know. Also, please let me know which I don't ask you. No, it might be something else I might not ask you, so please let me know that as well." So that's what Prabhupada says. If you understand Bhagavad Gita, we get the essence of all scriptures, also the essence which are not present anywhere else. Hence, that is the specific standard of the Bhagavad Gita. It is the perfect theistic science because it is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. And we have discussed this point elaborately in our first session, that all the Vedas, they has come out from the porous of Lord of Mahavishnu, breathing of Mahavishnu as well. However, Bhagavad Gita has directly come from the lotus mouth of Lord Sri Hari. Right? That's why Bhagavad Gita is much more important than all Vedic things, and that's why it's called as Gita Upanishad. And we discussed very nicely that in a forest, I think uh, we discussed that in a forest you find everything, and the mountains are there, trees are there, lakes are there, and the flowers are called as Upanishad. And if you make all the flowers in a rope, in a thread, it becomes a garland, and that garland looks much more beautiful, and that is Bhagavad Gita, right? And then after in this purport, uh, it's been said that uh, Dhritarashtra, he was actually he was partial to his son, and then, however, he was desirous that his son should win the kingdom, but he has a doubt. He has a doubt for their victory. Why doubt? Because of Dharma Kshetra. He knew very well that my sons are impious, they are not dharmic. And on the other hand, the Pandavas, they are very, very dharmic. They are pious people, and they have laid their life in very, very righteous way. That's why he has a doubt of their victory. However, and he was also fearful because of this holy place. And it's been said that still he has a hope of winning this war, that hope of winning this war and his sons being established as the kingdom of whole. Why? He has a hope because he thought that is being described by the acharyas, that he thought that maybe because of it's a place of dharma kshetra, the Pandavas, because they are pious in nature, they might renounce and would not take war, and they give up the war, and my sons will get the kingdom. So there's a 4 points in this very first sloka, that Dhritarashtra was partial for his son and the sons of Pandus, though Dhritarashtra and Pandu, those are both are brothers. And then Dhritarashtra has the desire of this kingdom for his son Duryodhana, and he was in doubtful for their victory because of holy place. Also, he was fearful because of the holy place, and still he has a hope that uh, by the influence of this holy place, Pandavas may renounce the battlefield. And that's why it's being said that Dhritarashtra was blind by birth. Unfortunately, he was also bereft of spiritual vision. And Srila Prabhupada says that another point is made very nicely, that Dharma Kshetra. Kshetra is field, called as field, isn't it? So Prabhupada says in a purport that as in the paddy field, the unnecessary plants are taken out, so it is expected from the very beginning of this topic that in the religious field of Kurukshetra, where the father of religion, Sri Krishna, was present, the unwanted plants like Dhritarashtra's son, Duryodhana, and other will be wiped out, and the thoroughly religious persons headed by Yudhishthira Maharaj would be established by the Lord. And that's how this is the significance of the word Dharmakshetra and Kurukshetra, apart from their historical and Vedic importance. Right. So that's how very important to understand this very first sloka, that the importance of Dharmakshetra. And that's why Dhritarashtra was very in a fearful condition. And then this is the first section of this chapter. In second section, in 10 verses, then Sanjay has started speaking about narrating the things happening in there to Dhritarashtra. And it being said that the second section says that Duryodhana's fear and diplomacy in describing the army. So Duryodhana actually describes this army. Let's see what he says. Sanjay Uvacha, Sanjay said, दृष्ट्वा तु पाण्डवानीकं व्यूढं दुर्योधनस्तदा आचार्यमुपसंगम्यं राजा वचन अब्रवीत्. So Arjun Sanjay said that, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and spoke the following words. So Duryodhana, he was actually very diplomatic, very political, and he went to Dronacharya, and he spoke these words. What he says, let's see, in verse number 3. He says, Pashyatam Pandu Putranam Acharya Mahati Chamom Vyunam Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. So he says, the important point in this verse is that Drupada Putrena. So he didn't say about that Dushtadumna, right? He says Drupada Putra. Why? He wanted to arouse, anger in Dronacharyas, because he know that Drupad and Dronacharya, they had enmity earlier, and that's why. So what happened earlier is basically when this Draupad and Dronacharya, they were studying in the same Gurukul, and Drupad was a son of king. However, Dronacharya was very poor Brahmana, and but these two became very very good friend. And then Draupad actually he said that, okay, I'll give you half of my kingdom when I become a king. But again, when they it happened, the time passed, and then when Draupadi became grown up, and he went and asked, sorry, Dronacharya, he went and asked Drupada, but Drupada denied that no, it doesn't happen like that. The friendship happens with equal people. So you are very poor and I'm king. Anyway, that's I'm cutting short the story. So then Dronacharya, he actually sent Arjuna. Even he sent first Duryodhana, and then Arjuna went and he bind, Drupada and bring back, and then he took all the kingdom and half given to Drupada. Then Drupada, being very angry, and he wanted to take revenge, so he made a sacrifice from where Dushtadumna, he was born from this sacrifice. He was born to kill Dronacharya, and now knowingly Duryodhana know that this all past time. So Duryodhana is saying that okay, Vyudam Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. So see that you have expertly taught all this knowledge to Dushtadumna, and he is now planning very well to kill you. So he wanted to make arouse anger in Dronacharya, right? So Duryodhana was very very fearful. However, he was a great politician, and so he intentionally called Drupada Putra to arouse anger into Dronacharya's, and he also wanted to make sure that Dronacharya did not become very very lenient towards the Pandavas, because Arjuna was one of his favorite student of Dronacharya. So he wanted to make sure that he should not be lenient in the battlefield against Pandavas. So he wanted to make sure that because of Dronacharya and Bhishma Pitama, he was thinking that I will win the war. Otherwise, it was very very difficult for him. And then after that, he narrates the other soldiers, like he says that Atra Sura Maheshwasha Bhimarjuna Samayudhi Yudhano Viratascha Drupadascha Maharatha, and others, Dushtaketu Kashiraj, Dushtaketu Chekitan Kashiraj Chaviryavan, Purjita Kunti Vojacha Shaivascha Narupungava. He says that there are so many great heroes like Dushtaketu, Chekitan, Kashiraj, Kunti Bhoja, Shaiva, and all others like Arjuna, Bhima are there. And he uses the word Maharatha. So Maharatha is basically, there are different designations given for all the warriors. The Maharatha is one who can fight alone with 10,000 archers. This is called as Maharatha, and they are very very expert in Vishnu Thakur says that these are very experts in weapons as well. They are very expert in scriptures too. And then Atiratha is one who can fight with uh, so many troops, less than 10,000, but more than 1,000. That's called as Atiratha. And Rathi is one who fights with 1 to 1. And then one who doesn't fight, like maybe in Ratha and fighting with the warrior on the foot. That's called as Ardharatha. So these kind of designations are given to each kind of warrior. And Duryodhana explains here that narrates that these all are Maharatha. And then after that, by describing this armies of Pandavas, he describes his own army to Dronacharya. He says very nicely that Bhavan, you are there. So he actually trying to praise again that okay, you are a great warrior as well. He says Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha Krupascha Samitikcha Tamisinjaya Krupascha Samitinjaya Aswasthama Vikarnascha Somadattistatthevacha. He says there are personalities like you, Bhisma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwathama, Vikarna, and son of Somadatta, called Bhurishiva, who are always victorious in battle. And now he is praising, or he actually narrating that we in our army, it's like you and Vishnu Pitama and others, and they were always become victorious. And after that, he says that Anyecha, what that verse? Verse number 9. Yes, it says Anyecha Bahava Shura Madarthe Tvakta Jivita. He says that there are so many other soldiers, they have actually come here and they are ready to lay down their lives. Mada Arthe Tvakta Jivita means Mada Arthe, for my benefit, for my side, they are ready to give up their life. Right. So Prabhupada says that there are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. So Duryodhana is saying that for my sake, there are so many soldiers, they can give up their life. And Srila Prabhupada makes very nice purport. He says, it means it's already concluded that all of them would die in the battlefield of Kurukshetra for joining the party of the sinful Duryodhana. Right. So that's how he makes comparison between these two armies. And how he makes comparison, that in verse 10, very nice verse is being described by acharyas in a different mood. He says, अपर्याप्तं तत् अस्माकं बलं भीष्म विरक्षितं पर्याप्तं तो idam itesham balam bhima virakshitam. Two very nice word. He says, first he says aparyaptam. Aparyaptam means what? It's our strength is immeasurable, right? And at the same time he says that uh, their army led by Bhima is paryaptam. So Prabhupada says that Duryodhana says our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma. So now again he's playing politically. Now first he assured assured Dronacharya, and now he thought Bhishma Pitama might not think something else. So he now praising to Bhishma Pitama that we all are perfectly protected by our grandfather Bhishma. Whereas the other party, the strength of the Pandavas, they are carefully protected by Bhima, which is limited, paryaptam, right? And Acharya says that it can be taken in other way around, like aparyaptam can be understood as insufficient. So though Duryodhana is trying to say that our party is immeasurable, strength is immeasurable, but it can be understood as aparyaptam means our party is insufficient. And the army by Bhima or Pandavas, it's paryaptam, it can be understood as sufficient. So our troops are not to be standard or a paryaptam, and we cannot fight against the Pandavas, or the Pandavas are very well protected and they are paryaptam by Bhima. So this is the second meaning uh, we can take out from this verse. However, Duryodhana wanted to say that our strength is immeasurable, but Acharya says it can take in other way around as well, right? So, and actually he wanted to make sure that at least Bhishma and Dronacharya they fight without taking any affection towards Pandavas, because even Bhishma Pitama and Dronacharya both had a very great affection towards Pandavas. So he wanted to get away of this affection of Pandavas, and he wanted to take both, assure that they will fight with their full strength. And after that, he says that everyone should actually support Bhishma Pitama, and he prays to Dronacharya first, then Bhishma Pitama, and then he assured that everyone should support uh, Bhishma Pitama. And Srila Prabhupada says that Duryodhana, he empathized that Bhishma Deva was undoubtedly the great hero, but he was also an old man, so everyone must specially think of his protection from all sides. So everyone should protect Bhishma Pitama. So in this way, he actually praises other warriors as well of his side. So, and after that, as soon as Bhishma Pitama was being praised by uh, praised by Duryodhana, and then it starts section 3 where the blowing of council starts. So Bhishma Pitama actually he didn't say anything in response to Duryodhana, but he blows his council, right? So I think I will stop today here, and we'll continue from section 3 or blowing of council uh, on Friday. Anyone have any questions or thought or any comments? Please do let me know. We can try to discuss, or any suggestion as well. Okay, if nothing, then Actually, I was thinking of doing one more thing. Like, we decided to chant one round as well. So we'll check it from next session of Bhagavad Gita. We'll try to take out one book, and we will be reading 2 to 3 minutes from that book about the chanting of holy name, and then we'll chant one round from next time, right? So thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for joining and inspiring us. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki,
जय
Srila Prabhupada ki,
जय
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki,
जय
Hare Krishna.